reaching at this place. You are a truly inspiration to so many women out here.
For me, this is not just a book launch. This is the start of potentially a movement which deserves attention. All business was spiritual.
So it comes from the top. What is an acceptable culture? What is not an acceptable culture?
Friends, coming up next, we'll be having an insightful dialogue with our esteemed guest, Mr. Rajesh Kamath and Dr. Anshul Gupta. So for the same, I would request Mr. Rajesh Kamath, so please come on, guys.
So I'm going to give before we get to our conversation, Anshul, I want to give a little bit of an imagery. It would have been 2011 or maybe 2012, and I can recollect vividly that there was a HR community event, and it had a galaxy of speakers rather, from different organizations as diverse as Microsoft, and we had some gurus of HR over there. And then we opened that session up for questions from the audience. The first question was asked by Anshul over there. But Anshul was not Dr. Anshul Gupta then. She was a student doing her management in one of the business schools in Mumbai. In those days, she was a resident of Mumbai. And then we interacted further. I can't remember exactly what the question was, but I do remember that vividly, so you know the impact of that question. Now fast forward, in 13 years or less than that, she's not only completed her PhD, worked in a couple of well-known organizations, but finished her research and ongoing research. One of the things I always say to people is that if you have just finished your PhD, that means your PhD is of no use. Because you have to make research your purpose of life. And that's what I'm most happy about, because it hasn't stopped. So post that, I think it came out in the form of her first book, The Spiritual Indian Workplace, and now Corporate Spirituality. So first of all, congrats for that, Anshul. A journey covered very, very quickly, I must say.
Thank you, sir. As sir said lot many things about me, but herein I would want to say my entire journey, sir has been a pillar so strong. I mean, sir says that I did it very fast. I did it fast because I got the right mentorship at the right time, all the time, freely available, at any time of the day, at any hour. So there were a lot of places where there were circumstances difficult to discuss, what to do, how to do, and I could so openly say everything to sir, and sir would mentor me, tell me that this is how it should be, you should see this is how the world works like this. I was very naive when I started in 2010, 2011. The dynamics of how things operate in the system, at workplace, what should be your values at work, how you should conduct yourself at work, at research, what should be your focus. So the connection of research to actual workplace, that thing ignited because sir said don't do research just for doing research. You actually do it so that you can make a difference. So
yes.
That's...
I remember that conversation. But I get far more credit than I deserve, because it's just whenever Anshul asks questions, I think I was there to provide her some real life perspectives. That said, I think we can get started. This event is about you, Anshul, and not about my mentorship. So
I can go on and on. I mean, I've done some courses also of sirs,
yeah.
And so many things are there in the book which I have learned from sir. Put it in a different format. So I would really want to.
Thank you for the acknowledgement. Let's see now more about this book. But I want to create a context. Now, what do I mean by this? So, I've always been a great believer in progress. If we are stagnant in organizations, with whatever we have done, even if it be the best practice, so-called best practice. I think we've really then not made movement enough to take the organization to greater heights. That's number one. Secondly, the last 12 years or so, I've been a very staunch proponent of all that our nation stands for. And when I say our nation stands for, I'm not talking about Bharat as a country alone, but I'm talking about the culture, the civilizations, the ideas, being the oldest civilization in the world. So what do we stand for? So let's see what we stand for. Okay, I'm giving you 3 examples. There are still a large number of manufacturing organizations who perform something called as Ayudh Puja. I'm sure many of you are aware. Where it's not just Gandhiji saying work is worship, which of course is very highly valued, but it's actually worshipping all their instruments, their machines, all their tools, and so on and so forth. And so many follow this. It's been followed for years. Why do they worship it? Not only do they see other people as God, they see even their tools as God, their workplaces as God, their desk is God. That's one example. Secondly, we've probably stopped doing it in organization, and this is one thing I'm very passionate about seeing. Can it be brought back? I think it started. Have you noticed that a large number of merchant shops abhi kam hue because of the glamour of things? Once upon a time, behind the cashier, there was always the 2 words, Shubha Labh. Do you remember this, folks?
Yes.
Kahan gaya wo Shubha Labh? And what did it mean? It meant if Labh is gained, it has to be always spiritual in nature, auspicious in nature, dharmic in nature, pure in nature, mindful in nature. So all gain has to be spiritual. In other words, that's number 2. Number 3, I've seen this even on the status of corporate individuals, whether they practice or not in the organizations, I don't know. Okay? The words are Aham Brahmasmi. It means I am Brahma. And Brahma is not a god over here. I am the eternal consciousness. I am the divine energy. I am everything. I am the spirit. If every individual is spirit in Bharat and in the world, because that wisdom was not stated only for Bharat, that means organizations are automatically spiritual. How can individuals be spirit if the organization is not spiritual? So I would like to start this being the context, because I think what's very important for me is that now there is a work that qualifies it in a certain way, which we explore. So tell me, what foundation got you to explore this? I know a little bit about your background, including your practice of meditation. I think even your painting, which I've seen in our home, very meditative in nature. But tell me, how did this come about? How did your research come about leading into these books?
Thank you, sir, for setting the context. This basically, I'll come to the concept later. I'll first tell how did I reach the concept. So, before coming to the research, I worked with many eminent companies in good meaty roles in HR. But after understanding it, I would sense that there is something missing in the way in which we are managing people at work. There is a gap. So that was a hunch that I had, and had inclination towards research. So that's how I went. Okay, let me see if there is something else that is missing out or something that has not come up in the forefront. Let me explore. So my first proposal to my college was just a 1-pager. That's not how you actually formally submit your proposals. I am thankful to Christ University for taking me with that 1-pager. What it said was, can we have people engaged at workplace in a similar manner, the way in which the dedication with which they do worship in whichever form they do, is it really possible? That was the question that I intended to address through my further research at Christ University. And from where did that come from was from around 18 years of my, so that time much lesser, meditation. So something that strikes, there is a higher level within individuals, something that we are not thinking about at workplace, from at least the exposure that I had. And the Christ University admitted me, and in the first year itself, I stumbled upon this concept of workplace spirituality. So now this concept of workplace spirituality, this term is not something that Dr. Anshul as a researcher has devised. It has been there in the research domain since 1999. So this book in Indian context, this is probably the second or the third book only. The first book ever written globally was the Spiritual Audit of Corporate America. So in the year 1999, Mitterrand Denton wrote that book, and that had actually had a lot of traction globally because it was very new. What is it?
Very interesting.
Yes. So the only reason why it could not gain more traction and it could not get implemented after that was because it had a lot of Western religious context. They had referred a lot to those
religious practices.
Yes. So though they were correct, they were in what they were intending to say.
Yes.
I have that book in my library. But because of that, it could not get implemented at workplace. Then that drew a lot of research into it, and there were many research papers. From 2003 in India it started. And then we have many people in IITs and IIMs who have, like me, done PhDs in this. But they left it to their normal course of work and etc. My contribution is because I felt it so relevant and I believed in it and spent 7-8 years doing research. We have our own scales to measure it. It can be related to the company's bottom line, etc. So why not have it to the people to actually implement it? So that's how the first book came, The Spiritual Indian Corporate, and now the second book, The Corporate Spirituality.
Wow, I didn't know this background. And how interesting it is that the first book on the topic should come from America. Right? Whereas, and that brings me to a very interesting point. Is it possible that we live in these times where things need to be called out before it gets attention? For example, now that we are seeing corporate spirituality, will probably get more attention because now there's a book on it. What do you think? Otherwise, it's always existed in pockets, perhaps, in individuals, maybe in small groups, and a lot in small and mid-sized companies, which will never get discussed because they are in smaller companies. हमको तो केवल बड़े-बड़े कंपनियों के best practices जानने हैं. What is your take on this? Does it require to be, spelled out, called out for people to even pay attention to it? What's your thought?
Yes, sir. Because in the era in which we live, had I, not written the book and just tried having maybe a consultancy on this and, told people that this is relevant and significant, I am not sure to what extent people would have even understood it. Why? Because there's a lot of confusion between religion and spirituality at workplace. So people generally resist it. So herein the book made it very clear that it's a very researched construct, it's a measurable construct, it has sub-dimensions, we will discuss that. So that anchoring is something, yes sir, is required, is what I found. At least, so I did not try the first book that, it should become a bestseller.
Get that. But yeah, I think bestseller or not depends upon how people take to it. So that brings me to another point. You mentioned that the first book, even though could have been very, very valuable, maybe still valuable, probably lost its steam because it was written in a religious context. Now that brings me to a very important point. I think in the last 15-20 years perhaps, we've become over-conscious of what we stand for, including religious identity. As an individual, people should be passionate about whatever topic it be and read up everything on that without being very neutral to it. Otherwise, how do you research? For example, for me, leadership is something which is very exciting. And in my books, you will find whether it is Jesus Christ CEO, the leadership practices of Prophet Muhammad, whether it is Buddha and what organizations can take from it, and of course a whole lot of our Shastra itself. So I want you to dwell a little bit about this. Why has this happened and how are you trying to address it, where people can study books like this without thinking, Abhi, this is about prayer and this is about religious identity and now we'll have to do XYZ. How have you addressed it without people thinking that this has anything to do with defined religion per se? What do you say?
So that was a much required question actually. So in the first book of ours, the Corporate Spirituality, and also in the second book, and also in our consultancy, we are being very clear that we are totally agnostic to any established or unestablished idea of religion, cult, or any kind of preachings in any form. What we speak is only a construct of workplace spirituality which engages the spirit of the employees, which is the highest form of engagement that we can have. So how it comes is, if we see the history of human resources, it started with personal management, then it became HRM, then HRD. So these books promote spiritual HRM, and that also coincides with the understanding of people at workplace. It started with the industrial era of an extension of machines. Then came the quality revolution, wherein they said that employees are also thinking beings. Let's allow them to use their brains and let's take suggestions from them. And then came Hilton Mayo's study, which said that the employees are emotional beings also. So what next? So that's how if the way the HR has evolved every 20-25 years, the understanding of humans at workplace has evolved. So this takes it to the next level of understanding people at work, which is the highest form of understanding people, is at the spirit level. So that's how we differentiate it from any kind of religion. So here no religion comes into picture, no cult, no preaching, no followership, nothing. We are only addressing the human at work. So that's how we keep it separate.
I'm just taking note of how one has to be cautious in even writing a book.
Yes.
Whereas, Dr. T.V. Rao, in the video we saw, spoke about Jesuit, spoke about Chinmaya Mission, spoke about Islamic followership. Religion came from spirituality and not the other way around. तो अभी हमको इतना डर क्यों लगता है is, I'm keeping that for another day for our discussion, but it's very strange. I think it should form actually a very strong base and unite people rather than strengthen them. Anyways, we'll keep that for later. So how she has, and she said it, we talk about the spirit within the human. Now, talking about spirituality, one of the first things she covers about, there are 4 pillars which I'll request her to elaborate. But the first one has been spoken about since time immemorial, and that is finding meaning in work. What that means, and you alluded to, the Elton Mayo studies, Hawthorne studies. It was among the first things that I remember ever reading in management. It was very, very interesting. that even if the lighting increases, people become more productive. That was still external lighting. So tell us a little bit about the internal lighting, which is meaning. Tell us a little bit about it.
So the first dimension that we have of this concept of workplace spirituality is people finding meaning in life through work. So that basically means that you are not doing work just for the sake of earning money. Of course, money is important. That's the byproduct of money, of doing work. You're doing work to raise your life to higher dimensions through work. You grow yourself at work, you explore yourself at work, and that can only happen when the work is something that gives you meaning. Wherein the purpose of the organization and the work that you intend to do as an individual is something that is matching. With that, there's a famous story which says that once upon a time there was a chisel maker who was asked, he was constructing a temple's wheel. So he was asked, what are you doing? So there were others who said that we are chiseling the rock to make the wheel. There was this one person who said that I am making the chariot of the god at the temple. So he knew that that is his purpose in life. So that purpose is very important, because if I am a person who is not interested at all in electronics and that is something that I'm doing just because my parents told me to become an engineer, and I do that at work because that gives me good money, that is not going to capture my creativity. That is not going to make me innovative. I will be stagnant, and I will be surprised of why I'm stagnant. I'm stagnant because that is not the purpose what I see in my life.
Right.
So
let's go to how would it show up? Let's say there's a coffee shop here. How would it show up in an individual who's behind the counter? Tell us, what would it look for someone who finds meaning in that, as opposed to someone who is there, who is serving coffee to the customers because it is told. Can you make a distinction and tell us?
yes, so very well. If someone is suppose here we have third wave coffee. So I was very well interacting with this lady named Siddhi. So yesterday she was on leave, but she very well took my calls. She gave me everything that was required. She went beyond the call of duty. She was not supposed to even pick up my calls yesterday, because she finds meaning in life with what she's doing. She sees that is a valuable contribution that she's making. She knows that if she doesn't respond, the third wave cafe will not be able to cater to the requirements of this particular thing. But there are also instances wherein people just not pick up calls. You keep calling them, and even they don't even remember what instructions have been given. So all these chaos happens when you're doing just for checklist. This is what needs to be done. I have done this. In the appraisal, I can clearly say that all my checklists are clear. Give me appraisal. But has it been in the right context? Has it made an impact that it intended to do?
Right.
So that is the meaning.
So what that means is, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm wondering whether that part has been explored. It is possible that two people still get the same kind of rating in their appraisal, but one has done it with great pleasure and another has done what's required. So that means, and I'm putting you a little bit in a spot, that means spirituality and this meaning in work hasn't got me ahead in any way, reward wise. So then why should I be, embrace corporate spirituality? Because reward to same hi hai. What do you say?
Okay, so I'll give both the individual and the organizational context here. So the scenario that you said, therein the organizational spirituality has totally failed. So corporate spirituality is basically an interaction of individual and organizational spirituality. It comes from the top. it's first a mandate from the top, and then we make the scales by discussing it, and then there are certain value systems that get implemented in the organizational fabric, and then this doesn't happen.
Good.
So herein, in this case that you said, the organizational spirituality has failed, but the individual spirituality will still hold high, because the person who has really done the work and then gets the correct remuneration for it is much satisfied. The person who has just done something, he would still keep doing only something. So maybe in the next appraisals, as we all know, are very subjective. There are many things not right for me to even say certain things.
We have experts later to dwell on it.
Yes. So till the time it is a part of the organizational fabric, it is difficult to comment on that. But individually, obviously their engagement and satisfaction levels will fall.
So you are saying the reward is in the meaning itself.
Yes.
So it doesn't call for external rewards. If it happens, well, fantastic.
No. Because here, then you can't be a sage and run a household. You can't say that I am working because I find meaning, and let the company pay me or not pay me. Then how are you going to run your home? Everyone. So that's the difference basically.
Right.
At your individual spirituality that you can pursue at your personal space. But when you are at workplace, so then one is you have to be vocal, and secondly, as I said, the organizational fabric has to support, because so when the organizational fabric supports, even in the recruitment process, so the entire life cycle of employee will have these things as an evaluation parameter. So even the appraisal system, if we have a balanced scorecard, there are 4 dimensions. There will be a 5th dimension which will have these ratings. So then, and in that 5th dimension, the ratings would change. But unless that system is in place.
Right. So I feel, at least, and here's again I'm going to pick your brain a little bit. If it is converted, I know that's one of the things, and we'll speak about it. But if it is converted to a measure, would it not actually dilute it? But that said, I would like you to address it to something you said earlier, where you said the organizational values have to support. So tell us a little bit about these organizational values, which will value the individual who, like you said, behind the counter also finds meaning, finds joy, likes the customer, dil se. So tell us about the organizational values. What are and tell us practically 1 or 2 things which would show up as values from a certain faith, which is not, openly promoting. But let's say that's where the grounding is, because it often happens, right? That we have a connection to what I'm calling as a spiritual, I don't like the term, but to a spiritual organization. And I meet a lot of these in our consulting work also. But they cannot really, because of the complexities of modern times, it is not possible for them to promote that openly. So, but you mentioned another pillar, which is a sense of community. What I'm interested in knowing is that is there a way how leaders can actually, through promoting a sense of community amongst first his or her direct reports, and then encourage them to do the same with their reports and so on. Can this be promoted? What would you say to that?
So if the leader has a certain drift towards any of the cult or etc., that can still remain in his or her home clearly in his or her home, nothing beyond that. But yes, the learnings from there, the values from there should resonate in the organization's culture, because these principles that we are talking of, they are not something that have come from air. They have come from these traditional ideas of understanding of, you call it religion, you call it spirituality, you call it any name. that is there. And if when we are speaking about the second dimension of sense of community, so herein we are not telling people to sit down, let's together do a yoga session, or let's together have a cult membership, or let's together have a meditation session, or let's together have a sermon or a bhajan. We are nowhere saying all of that. Sense of community is the interconnectedness in the organizational fabric, wherein we are saying that the person can connect to the individuals in a certain manner, wherein they can easily bounce to each other. So it's almost a saying that at workplace no one is your family, which we would like to contradict, saying that they might not be your family, but that kind of sense of community, that belongingness, is something that we are talking about, which again is measurable. So, yeah.
So, is Secret Santa something that would promote this?
So yes, thanks for asking. So exactly what TV Rao sir was saying is that somewhere down the line, we as a function have, at many places bottomed ourselves down to Santa, Secret Santas and Rangolis.
Right.
So they are. So there is something known as employee engagement initiatives. In that there is a section of fun activities. So fun activities are good, but they are not the only thing that builds sense of community. Sense of community is the way you function at every given breathing movement that you are in the organization. So are you aware of what is happening in your team? Are you in sync with them? Are you in sync with the other teams? Are you are you only a person who is like, I did my work, tick, 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 but what happens to my work next? Is the other person able to take it up? Does the other person require some help? Are my inputs ready from the person before me? So that is sense of community that we are talking of here. And Secret Santa can be a fun activity, yes.
So I actually see a lot of value in that. Okay, I'm going to contradict this a little bit. I feel if the same activity is given more meaning, it can become very powerful. After all, isn't your fourth pillar about compassion? And if Secret Santa is not about मुझे क्या gift मिलेगा, but it's more about दूसरों को हम क्या दे सकते हैं, can it not be an amazing way to practice? Now, just because Secret Santa sounds fun, people are valuing it. Would it change if you told them that Santa Claus is actually Saint Nicholas? So I am very curious to see why we are so super touchy about not having anything to do with even remotely religious, so-called religious. Why not instead talk about, and I'm not saying, declare religion as something that we all enjoy. No, I'm not saying that. But why should we hide behind these? Why not speak about Secret Santa more as not just, see the problem, or what I think you were alluding to, is not just engagement. If we do a better job, and it's not just the HR again, I think the leader should be involved, and we'll go to the audience in just a bit, in making people realize how they have felt about this entire experience. What made them feel good about it, if at all? Was it the receiving of the gift, or was it providing someone else with an experience? So I think there is a lot of spirituality to be discovered behind some of the rituals that organizations do. Engagement could be converted to spirituality. I'd love your view on that, and perhaps then from the audience as well.
So herein when we are saying workplace spirituality, so fun activities, as you rightly said, can be, or rather are, the tools to promote it. They are not the the core of it.
Well said.
So they are the tools, and of course we should be using all available tools. Why miss out on anything? And if the context says that speaking something about it, and if the culture and the place and the kind of people that you have, if it is acceptable and you see that there will not be a backlash, maybe in a different, maybe not the organizational setup, if you really want to go deep, superficially can still be done. But why miss out on that too? Like you rightly said, let's have a briefing and debriefing of why we did it.
Hey, now already Secret Santa. Why not make it a more spiritual experience is what I'm thinking.
Yes, so
because people are enjoying it.
Yes, so every activity, rather than just doing it for the sake of it, if we align them with the pillars of that we are talking of, then everything can be one of the wheels taking us to the same destination.
So later when we speak to our panelists, we'll speak more on this. But can you throw light a little bit on the fourth pillar of compassion? What do we mean over here? And more importantly, I want you to dwell on, is there space for compassion in today's times? I don't want to get into controversy because I feel, it gets overdone in social media. But in general, social media, perhaps a reflection of society, tends to project companies and their owners as wanting to grab the most and give the least. So compassion की जगह कहाँ पर है? If you could just share a little bit about how you have stated this particular pillar.
So one of the pillars of workplace spirituality is compassion. When we say it basically means in everything that we do at workplace, can we be compassionate? So supposingly our targets are not being met. We obviously tell and we take the necessary actions. But are we compassionate? Rather than insulting people, rather than having all those things, even if people are being laid off, how part of it? So everything that we are doing, when we say compassion as a part of a value of organizational fabric, it gives us as a guiding pole of the how part. So compassion is equivalent mostly to the how. Coming to that, all that we hear in the news and the way the companies are portrayed, at this forum difficult to comment what is correct and what is not correct, that is being reported. But all of these things, if organizations stand highly for being compassionate in what they say to people, in what goes out, and the way if organizations start getting perceived and start actually practicing compassion, a lot of issues in terms of psychological trauma, in terms of not so correct image of organizations will get solved just by being compassionate. So, because at the end of
how
the
would
day,
that show up? We are reading about organizations whose leaders or supposedly as reported say, don't get sick. Okay. Can people even control this? Or if you get sick, we'll need to have a call with your doctor and so on and ridiculous stuff. So, how would compassion replace this?
So, we were discussing, if the organizational fabric says in a non-negotiable way that compassion is something that is non-negotiable, your boss is not going to say, let me talk to your doctor, I don't even believe your fake bill. So that statement will not come. There will be a concern that, are you okay? Do you need some help? Who is your backup? To whom have you given KT? That corrective and positive discussion will happen. And if nothing can be done, can you please come on call and give us these inputs? Rather than saying, if you want to save your job, come to the call. That statement, how you the work needs to be done.
Right.
We need to make profits. We can't go on losses because people are sick.
Yes.
So all those things are correct and are the reality, and the organization has to overcome them to make profits. The how part of it is compassion.
Did this pillar come from your tough experiences at your workplace when nobody showed compassion?
So
Having been in touch with her all these years, makes me remember some of the experiences she went through.
So those are long back and done and dusted. So it has nothing to do with any of my research. So the research has come up only based on the research papers that are there, the practical studies that have been done there. You, as a researcher, you cannot have any personal bias to it. That has to be removed, and Christ University does that very well.
Okay.
So so generally when we have presentations, there are so much cross questioning that and we have it every 3 months and 6 months.
Right. So any bias goes out.
So any kind of these kind of bias goes out, because
That's good.
so even if I have to make a statement that this light over here is yellow, I will be asked, do you see it yellow? Or this yellow is something which is a mix of these colors. Who has said that mix of these colors is yellow? Please give me that proof and only make that statement that this light is yellow. So that's how
The rigor of research.
Yes.
So that brings me to my last question. We can take a couple of questions from the audience then. Again, we are in the world that needs measurement for everything. If there is no measurement, that means it's not happening. Right? हमको हर चीज में चाहिए measurement, whether it is fitness, whether it is workplace, anything and everything. So I want you to dwell a little bit on this. One is, how do you satisfy this criteria, saying that this can be measured, number one. Secondly, how does this, because you are also, I'll call you a spiritualist, how does this stand vis-a-vis the spiritual practices of the individuals? For example, you've been someone who has used meditation practice for the last 12 plus years. Is it necessary for people to prove that it has done so much of good to me? Alright? How do these two stand? So I want you to dwell a little bit on the measurement aspects of it. How are you addressing it? And the second part is that really necessary?
Measurement part is, yes, very, very much necessary, because unless you measure it, how do you even implement it at workplace? Because we have to give it to the board why we are doing it, and the board asks for numbers. Something that can't be measured, please do it at your personal space. The answer is as simple as that. So that's where the measurability becomes very, very, very important. So there are many scales globally. We have mentioned them in the book. There are a few scales that have been constructed very well in the Indian context. There is a 2013 scale of Gupta, Kumar and Singh, which is the most cited scale in the Indian context.
I see.
We have our own scale also.
Could you dwell a little bit on that?
So our scale, we did not make any other dimensions. The dimensions are still the same. Just that the sub-dimensions and the questionnaire, that changes in the current context. So 2013 to now is a huge time. So our research is very relevant to the current times, and the questions surrounding it, of how we are measuring it, have evolved and changed. It still is on these 4 dimensions only, that is finding meaning in life through work, having interconnectedness at work, your values and organization values matching, and having compassion. So these are the 4 sub-dimensions of the concept of workplace spirituality. And then, like all other scales, we have the items, we have the questions, and then there is a 5-point rating, and then we do SEM analysis. That's how the individual spirituality and then the organization spirituality gets measured. and then there is a report, and then they can. So if you are actually implementing it in an organization as an OD initiative, if I can dwell it on a bit for 2 minutes,
Please.
it would be something like you don't take the scale off shelf. We as consultants, we would sit with the leadership team and understand what is their idea of workplace spirituality, to what extent. So every organization might not be that ready to take it fully.
Sure.
So based on that, we tweak the scale a bit, which is an acceptable cultural intervention for the organization. Once that is there, the scale is there in place, there is a pre-test and a post-test. So in the pre-test, you give it to the entire your employees, and then you have the ratings, which is the group rating and the level ratings and etc. And based on that, then there is something known as plan of action for individuals and each teams, and which is being followed up for 6 months, 8 months, whichever threshold the organization decides. And then there's a post-test.
Right.
Wherein the test gets implemented again, and then we see what kind of difference has it taken up.
Right.
Also, in the meantime, if we are creating an organizational culture, which we want to say as a corporate spiritual culture, the entire measurement in the life cycle of the employees, when we are recruiting employees, we will have these dimensions as one of the parameters. When we are inducting, the induction will speak of these as a cultural fabric. When we have appraisals, they will have this. Training and development will have this. Even in the exit, it would be evaluated, did we falter here? So that's how the entire...
So we can perhaps explore this in our conversation with panelists. I would be very interested in knowing in the pre-audit. Suppose organizations show up in the pre-audit only, and just to use a fun term, that you are an Asura organization. Alright? Which means that in modern terms toxic.
Got it.
Is there any hope? So would we then work with the organization that saying that but we can help you? Because if the leadership itself shows up, should we, and that's what we can explore. So I'm creating the ground. Or should we have a bare minimum for helping that helping grow the spirituality in the organization? Okay, so I'm leaving this as a point for us to dwell on, that jahan par totally missing hi lag raha hai, because in your audit if it turns up like this, then what should we do?
That's the lowest hanging fruit.
Oh, you're saying
yes.
They are the best ones to work with?
Yes, because
Okay.
if the leadership, obviously if that scale has been implemented in the organization and we have that rating,
Yes.
that basically means that the intent is there in place.
Interesting.
So even obviously these are all confidential informations,
Yes.
and it is nowhere going to affect the branding of the organization. So if it comes out like a fancy term, you said that it's a Asura organization, so basically it's a totally toxic place and not
Yes.
at all aligning to the value system and not the workplace spirituality that the organization wants.
Yes.
Then it's the lowest hanging fruit, because the higher ups
chances
want it.
are-
They only have to find champions, have to make changes, because the biggest problem in implementing all of this is the intent.
Right.
If that
That's
is
a nice
there in
perspective.
place, then
Okay, can we take 1 or 2 questions from the audiences? Would you like to ask? We've created a little bit of a foundation, but we'd love to hear from you. Any couple of questions? Yes, please.
do you have extra hand?
Yeah.
No, you can take this. No problem.
Hi, I'm Nidhi.
She'd like you to come ahead.
You want me to come ahead? Okay. So I've been, so I'm a teacher by profession, and I have a lot of friends who are working in corporates at various levels. So they've been telling me that they leave jobs because of toxic culture. It's so saddening because they're so educated.
Yes,
they've
that
gone
was
to
my
the best
point.
universities, they've gone to IIT, you name it.
Yes.
And they're so intelligent, and they're earning big bucks, and they have to leave their well-paid, very cushy jobs because they have a horrible manager, they have a terrible boss, and this 90-hour work culture.
It had to come.
Yeah. So what's your take on this, on two issues, this 90-hour work thing? and this toxic culture. So what can we do? How can we help? So that
Yes.
the people stay in their jobs.
So I'm going to thank you.
Yeah.
She'll respond to
Thank
it.
you.
I'm going to request us to steer clear of that 90-hour thing, but speak about toxic.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is pulled out of context. Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, please take a seat.
thank you.
He'll respond.
So the relevance of this book and the reason why the first book became a bestseller and the second book is also a bestseller, like 15 days before it became.
Right.
The reason is because we did not intend to, but it came just at the right time when people had these questions
Correct.
of what do we do of toxicity at work? How do we even address it? So, toxicity is basically a cultural problem, and what the intervention that we are saying is a organizational development intervention. Something because of the face validity that we had done, and from what we hear, is now the need of the hour. So, if this is implemented, it will have a lot of negative implication on the organizational toxicity. But for that, the intent is required. Unless there is an intent, we are ready with the tools. Now there are tools in place.
Yes.
The how part is in place.
So the response is, if I hear you right, is even if we have the leader with some intent to change that perception,
Correct. That's what.
I think that's a good starting point. Do I hear you right?
Yeah, absolutely. The leader himself or herself,
Yes.
they have to take those measures and steps to have a conducive environment where everyone thrives.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because see what is
But if
happening.
they don't understand that,
Yes.
what
So what is happening is what we see around and what our face validity of. So when you do research, there is a problem statement that can't come out from your mind.
Correct.
You see what is there around and you do enough amount of face validity of secondary data, primary data, face validity interviews and etc.
Correct.
So what we found was there are so many organizations that are falling down, not knowing why this has happened.
Yeah.
And the leadership has that intent but doesn't knows what is going wrong, because managers say that I have to get the work done, how can I not do this and get the work done. So they are not able to articulate it in the right manner. They are not able to provide that right kind of value system in the organizational cultural fabric. So with that gap happened our research, and the dimensions that we have and the process that we have written, that is an actual answer. So if a company's leader has both these books and actually read it, they can do it in their organization. And if not, we have our consultancy, the corporatespirituality.com, and now we exist only to support. So if there is toxicity at work and there is an intent to make it better, because it's not helping anyone. Because if the individuals are suffering, that frustration goes at the personal space, and not just at the family, it goes to the society at large, which suffers. So individual and the society is suffering, and the organization, is it getting, so if it is getting benefited and if the profits are increasing because of it, please do it. But yeah, I mean, as simple as that. But from the track record that we are seeing over the years, it is actually not helping. Maybe it might help 2 months, 3 months, but the sustenance of the organization lies in the right kind of culture, and one of it is the culture that we are promoting through this book.
Yeah, another question. Anyone else would like to ask? Yes. Could you just give her a mic then?
Hi, my name is Siddhi. I'm a book blogger, and my question to you is from the perspective of running a consultancy. What is the most cliche statement that you've come across about spirituality when dealing on an organization level and on an individual level?
So the major challenge for us, why these books came into picture was, So this research has been happening even in Indian context since 2003, so more than 23 years now. The reason why it has not come up in the mainstream management is spirituality is equal to religion, spirituality is equal to certain traditional divine practices, spirituality at workplace is equivalent to following some kind of god or sect or cult. So these are the major hindrances or barriers that we try to break with these two books of the understanding, because we at workplace these things are difficult. We need to engage the spirit of the person in a language and in a culture which resonates with why does an organization exist? It exists to make profits. It exists to make profits. How do we engage individuals for that? We can't force fit anything to the individual. We need to have a voluntary engagement, and that voluntary engagement at the highest level is at the spirit level. So that is workplace spirituality.
Interesting. By the way, the most cliched statement in consulting are people are our assets.
But they are not treated as assets.
I mean, there are organizations who do a good job of it, but we probably hear of them lesser.
That's true.
It's not that it isn't there, but they are probably found in pockets or smaller organizations.
So in our book, we have quite a number of case studies.
Yes.
There are 3 live case studies and a few secondary case studies. In the live case studies, we have 3. One is Malaka Spice, which Sir has been consulting them in their organizational culture through his own firm. So they have been doing really, really well in terms of the organizational culture, and it's one of the seminal studies, I must say. It has even featured in the Harvard case studies of how the organizational culture should be.
I think that's a very good example. I'd like to dwell on this during the panel, so that we can engage with even the leaders. Please continue.
We have another case study, which is the Terence Lewis Dance Academy, the person here who's been supporting us. So, Sir's Academy, knowing or not knowing, that they are in alignment with our value system, there are many examples of how they have helped people, how the people have grown with them, how they support them in the field in itself. So, and then we have an example of the Taj Group of Hotels.
Yes.
So all these companies are the companies who have either in pockets or in totality have this kind of work culture in their organization, but they don't know. As Sir rightly was saying, that it's not that everyone is wrong and everyone needs correction. It's not like that. There are good number of companies who are doing exceptionally well, and there are companies who are doing exceptionally well in certain places and in certain places not. So it's not that goodness doesn't exist at workplace. Good cultures do exist, just that it's being less spoken of and less replicated.
Wonderful. So I think we will close this part for now, and then over to Harry for the second part. Yes, over to you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
For such a lovely
Thank you so much.
brainstorming session. I'm sure we have done so much, Mr. Kamath and Dr. Anshul. It was amazing.